thank you all for coming out. I'm actually very impressed. I'm glad you guys all came out. This really tells me that you care about this program. The NRA Basic Pistol Program is taking a new leap, and we're going to get into that tonight, and I'm glad you're here. That shows me that you care. This is an informal update, and what I mean by that is the NRA did not sanction this event. This is of my own doing. That being said, what you're going to hear tonight is from a training counselor that's been talking to NRA HQ quite a bit over the last 2 years, learning about this program. So the information I'm going to give you, as far as I am concerned, is accurate and good information. But just to clarify, this is not an NRA sanctioned event. That's why I'm calling it the informal update. A lot of you guys I've had the honor of training, most of you guys in this room in some form or another, and I look at you guys as my instructors. So I really want you guys to embrace this program and do very well with it. I want you to be well regulated with it in the true sense of what that means, and move forward with the course and teach more civilians. We're going to get into the course here in just a moment. Before we do, I would like to ask who traveled the furthest? Anyone over 2 hours? Over 2 hours. How far?
It's probably 2.5 hours because of traffic.
That doesn't count. How many miles? How many miles? Yeah. Yeah. How many miles you got? Where from? Cumberland. Oh, you win. Here. You win the free NRA hat. Woohoo! There you go. I believe in ongoing customer service, and one of the things that the NRA has done with the way they're implementing this program is it affords you the ability to continue with ongoing customer service with your students. In the past, they take your class, you give them their certificate, you pat them on the back, attaboy, and off they go. And now we have lots of opportunities to really work with them on an ongoing basis. As I said, I've had the honor to train most of you guys in this room, but there's quite a few that I haven't. So those that don't know me, my name's Klint Macro. I'm an NRA Training Counselor, Advanced Pistol Instructor, Refused to be a Victim Regional Counselor, Chief Range Safety Officer, Practical Pistol Coach, and the founder of the Trigger Pressers Union. This is my contact information. If you guys have any questions, in a couple days after you've had some time to mill all this stuff over, by all means contact me. Send me an email. Tonight's agenda. I want to familiarize you, current instructors, with the blended format. We're going to view portions of the e-learning. Now, we're not going to see all of the elements of the e-learning because the e-learning has sound, has motion, and I'm going to show you some still shots of the e-learning that I pulled down off of the internet. But we're going to take a look at some of that. We're going to walk through the Phase 2 lesson plan together. We're going to go through it. We're also going to discuss administrative logistics. All those administrative questions everyone has been calling and asking about. We're going to talk about managing the qualifications, what we can do to manage them, and discuss ways to continue a training relationship with our students, that ongoing customer service. We want to make sure that we create a relationship with them. It's going to be beneficial for everybody. Now let's take a look at the NRA Basic Pistol course from 1958. Anyone teach the course back then? Nobody? 1958. This is the instructor manual right here. This is the student packet right here. So 1958, that's what the basic pistol course looked like. Here, if you'll take notice, one of the teaching aids that they had to have when they taught this course was this shoe that they made out of wood that you would clamp a pistol in, and the instructor would walk in front of the muzzle and move a target around, and they'd do this triangulation drill while the student would move the shoe around. Not touching the firearm, however, but still, they're walking in front of a muzzle. Very different than what we're accustomed to now. Keeping up with the times, they came out with color handbooks. They developed the NRA 3 rules for safe gun handling, which, by the way, in that 1958 version doesn't have the rules in it. It has other rules. They still equate to the same thing, basically, but they didn't have the 3 NRA rules. Then they introduced a two-handed grip, because in the 1958 version, this is what they were teaching. Hand in the pocket, bullseye style. Then they came out with PowerPoint presentations, which was pretty advanced. A year and a half ago, the NRA said, you know what? You can use SIRT pistols. Then, of course, they developed the Simcoe class, which I don't know if you guys have seen, I did some videos on them, on ways to use the Simcoe class, which is something, by the way, and people don't always know this, as NRA pistol instructors, you're allowed to do the Simcoe class and issue the certificate. So we've gone through some changes throughout the years, keeping up with the times. Now we find ourselves here. Two-part blended format. Basics of Pistol Shooting course is a two-part blended course consisting of an e-learning portion and a range-based practical portion. I want you to remember that term, practical. The e-learning portion is intended for all adults, regardless of previous shooting experience or NRA affiliation. Among the many things that you will learn in this e-learning segment are safe pistol use, the proper operation of revolvers and semi-automatic pistols, and the fundamentals of pistol shooting. Once you pass the final online exam of this segment, be sure to register for the range-based portion to complete your certification. The two-part blended, what does that mean? Well, for the end user or the student, what the two-part blended is, it's an experience consisting of two parts. Phase 1, which is what the e-learning or the online portion is, it's roughly 6 to 8 hours of knowledge. I was charged with the task of beta testing it right after Christmas. Granted, I had to take detailed notes, but it took me a little over 8 hours to do it. And that was with me doing notes, but it took me some time. Now, I did it over the course of about a week, maybe half hour here, 45 minutes there, that kind of thing. And I was able to do it in my underwear, sitting on my couch at 3 in the morning. It was kind of nice. The Phase 1 can be completed at the student's own pace. Their own pace on their own schedule. That's one of the benefits of it. Phase 2 is the instructor-led portion. The instructor-led portion is 6+ hours. And I say 6+ because there are minimum times on the exercises, but one of the reoccurring themes that we're going to talk about tonight is the course is objective-based. Meaning, unless we meet the objectives, the course isn't technically done. So, to say that you're going to have everyone go through in 8 hours is incorrect. You may get everyone through in 6, it may take 10 hours. And we'll talk about why as we move forward. What is the blended for the instructor? Think of Phase 1 this way. Phase 1 is a pre-qual. Phase 1 really has nothing to do with us as instructors. We're not teaching it, it's not something we're administering. Think of it as a pre-qualification. So when people want to take the course, they have to do the online portion first. It's a pre-qualification. And it introduces students to the knowledge. And your students will come to you with a solid baseline understanding of everything that we're going to go over in the class. I mean, how liberating is that? You know, oftentimes, and I'm sure we've all done classes here, we've talked and gone through the classroom portion, and someone back there has given us that look like they have no idea. We might as well be speaking in Chinese. This gives them the opportunity to get this information ahead of time. I know Jack has always said when we do our classes, what a great thing it would be to be able to at least give them the handbook before we do a class. I think we all agree that would be beneficial. So think of it this way. It's a pre-qual. They get the knowledge from the e-learning. Then it's up to us to help them develop the skills. Now the attitude is up to the individual, as we all know. Again, remember, attitude is contagious. So a positive attitude will rub off. We need to keep a positive attitude, of course. And obviously a positive attitude towards safety is paramount. Monkey see, monkey do. Think of the e-learning as part of your training team. Instead of Joel doing the classroom portion and then everyone coming from the classroom over here and Jack and I work with them on the range, well, the e-learning is doing the classroom portion. Remember IDEP? Anyone take the Range Safety Officer course anytime recently? IDEP is introduce, demonstrate, explain, practice. That's kind of one of the teaching methodologies. The e-learning is going to introduce, and then you guys are going to demonstrate, explain, and then supervise the students' practice. Really, it's same. It's not much different than what we're doing. How many people here do classes in a team where one person does the classroom and the rest of you work with the shooters on the line? Same. No different, except the classroom portion is being done at home at their own pace. This is an important note. The e-learning is not, nor is it intended to be a replacement for the instruction, coaching, and guidance of an NRA certified instructor. It was never meant to be a replacement. It never will be a replacement. There's no way to replace that. But what the e-learning gives us is a completely standardized dissemination of that classroom information. You know, I had talked to Marilyn. Marilyn and I were talking quite a bit over the last week, and well, she had some concerns, and we went through them. And for instance, I can stand up here with a poster, and I can pass out components, and I can talk about the components of a cartridge, and I can talk about the sequence of fire. And I'm real good at it. I'm dramatic and everything, you know, that's fine. But that is one way of doing it, or people can see a three-dimensional animatic that moves and turns, and there's explosions and sound effects with it. It's pretty amazing stuff. How many here got a chance to look at some of the e-learning already? A couple of you. Now, for the instructor, what is Phase 2? Phase 2 is TPI on steroids. We all know TPI. Can anyone tell me what TPI means? Yeah, total participant involvement. And of course, what that means is we want people to get their hands on, get their fingers dirty. We'll review the material learned in Phase 1, just about all of it. Everything they do in Phase 1 that they see online, we're going to review it in a practical sense. TPI on steroids. I'm not trying to coin that phrase, but I think as you get deeper into the lesson plan and kind of wrap your head around how you're going to interact with your students with the lesson plan, it's all hands-on. It provides a measurable shooting qualification. How many people here, when it came time, there you go, thank you. How many people here filling out your certificates at the end of the day, you want to go home, it's been a long day, and you think, that Joe guy, man, I don't know if I should sign this certificate or not. I just didn't really feel comfortable signing off on that certificate. So then I have to make that call and talk to other instructors I'm working with. Well, what do you think about Joe? Do you think this is okay? Because here in Pennsylvania, we got it easy. No big deal. We sign it. People put it up on their wall and they say, hey, look at the class I did. But you get in Ohio and Maryland, you're signing off on that. Now they're going to take that to a government agency and get a concealed carry permit based upon your signature. Puts a little more weight behind that signature. There's a little more consequence to that signature. With a measurable shooting qualification, it kind of takes away some of that gray area. That's the big thing. They have to qualify before we issue them the certificate. You know, you go to the bank and you say, I want to do this, and they say, I'm sorry, sir, it's policy. And you go, damn, we can't argue with the policy card. Well, this is our policy card. So if they don't shoot the qual, they don't get the certificate. Now that being said, we don't just say, okay, you lose, get out of here. Of course not. We're going to work with them. We're going to, that ongoing customer service. We're going to bring them back. We're going to coach them. Maybe that's an opportunity for you guys to charge some money and do some one-on-one coaching. Who knows? Or just out of the goodness of your heart, maybe you'll meet up with them, however you see that. But we're going to work with them and give them an opportunity to qual again. I'm an advanced pistol instructor, so I get to do the defensive modules. And the defensive modules, at the end of the course, we shoot the quals, the defensive qualification. And it's challenging, and it's timed. Our qualification is not timed. They just have to get the groups, 4-inch groups at different distances depending on the particular qual that we're doing. There's the red, white, and blue qualification. They have to pass the red qual for us to give them their certificate. Everything on top of that is just more achievement. So in the defensive modules, I start my class off and say, hey, look, we're going to shoot a qualification at the end of today. Some of you may not qual today, and that's okay, because I'm going to be here to help you qualify. You know, if you dedicate your time to me, I will dedicate my time to you, and we will get you through this, and we'll get you to qual. The last two I've done, there were a few people that didn't qual. I gave them a copy of the qualification requirements and the times, and I know 3 of the 4, I know for a fact, have been practicing and practicing. So they're shooting more. So rather than getting their certificate and off they go and they talk about, well, I'm ready to defend myself, I shot, 50 rounds and I got a certificate. Now they're actually practicing with an agenda. What a wonderful thing. And now they're going to come back, I'm setting up a qual day, and they're going to come back and we're just going to shoot quals till everyone makes it, or at least they decide not to shoot anymore. So it sets up that continued opportunity to work with your students or your clients. I refer to my students as my clients, as I refer to my instructor candidates as my clients. Now let's take a look here. This is just a slide from the e-learning. This is the information on how to access the e-learning portion. Now you guys probably all received a bulk email for this from NRA HQ, from training. So this is the information for the instructor access. The instructors don't have to pay. You can go on there, you can look through it, you can do it all in order, you can jump around, skip around, look at different lessons. I would recommend you familiarize yourself with the e-learning because you want to know what they're learning. The reference page, you click on it and it'll tell you what page in the textbook that they can find information on. I'll explain how they get their textbooks here in a minute. My prediction is give it 6 months to a year and there's going to be thousands of people out there looking for you so that they can take the Phase 2. And we're going to talk about how to manage that. You know, we can still put classes on like we do now, administer them through NRAinstructor.org, but also people are going to be able to access the e-learning on their own without knowing any of you guys. So they'll go on, they'll take the e-learning course and it says to finish you need to find an NRA certified instructor and take Phase 2. So then they'll say, oh crap, they'll go on and they'll search. You know, we've all been on NRAinstructor.org, so you say 25 miles radius from zip code, and they'll find, you know, Aaron's got a class on the 15th. Okay, I'll sign up. Or they'll find no classes around, and then they'll find that, you know, Dan is an NRA certified instructor, and they'll get in touch with Dan and say, hey, do you have any classes going on? With, say, 8 hours, we're going to just say on an average 8 hours of online time, and then we're saying 6+ hours of instructor-led, they've essentially made a 2-day course without making it 2 days. The online portion is monetized. So people that take this course are going to have to pay to do this online portion, and that's separate from what we charge them. The fee is $60 US dollars. As soon as they sign up for the e-learning, they'll get sent to the pay site just like you guys did when you got your certification. You know, you had to go to the pay site and pay your $10. Or your 30 if it was your first certification. They pay that. As soon as they pay that, they get a packet of electronic information, a PDF of the textbook, and then they get sent a hard copy of the student packet. And the NRA supplies that to them. That cost comes out of their tuition for the e-learning portion. We don't have to supply packets anymore for basic pistol. That being said, the other disciplines are still the same way we've always been doing them. So if you're a rifle instructor or personal protection inside or outside, you're still going to do everything just like you have been doing it. Now let's talk about the content of the e-learning. So lesson 1 is the introduction. There's a welcome portion. The attractive yet non-threatening hosts all introduce themselves and they talk about how to navigate the e-learning. You know, you'll click and you'll move to the next lesson. There'll be quizzes. At the end of every quiz, they say, let's review our learning outcomes, which is basically the new way of saying our learning objectives. So they'll say, check box the following. Are you comfortable with the 3 main components of a pistol? And you have to click yes. And if you're not, if you say no, then it says, let's take a step back and review. And it sends you back and it talks about that particular portion. Then they go over owning a pistol, which those of you that have been teaching a while probably will recognize when they say, many Americans own pistols for different reasons. Some for hunting, some for target shooting, some for collecting, some for self-defense. They go through that whole bit. Then, safe pistol usage. They get into some of the basics of gun safety. They introduce the 3 main rules for gun safe handling. That's that first module. So they go through each of those sections. At the end of that module, there's a little quiz, a 3 to 5 question quiz, and they have to do the quiz. And if they don't pass the quiz, they get sent back and they have to review. Otherwise, they pass the quiz and then they can move on to the next module. As I said, students can't jump around and bounce around in this. They have to go through it in order and consecutively. Lesson 2, we move into pistol characteristics. Types of pistols. Pistol action types. Pistol action components. Sounds familiar, right? Lesson number 3, using a pistol. Talks about using a revolver, using a semi-automatic. Then, lesson 4 is ammunition, the anatomy of a cartridge. Cartridge types and nomenclatures and ammunition safety. And yes, they do actually tell you what you're supposed to do with ammunition if you want to discard it. Lesson number 5 is introduction to shooting pistols. So it talks about preparing to shoot. The 5 fundamentals of shooting. Then lesson 6 talks about shooting positions, the elements of a shooting position, learning a shooting position. It says the proper way to learn a shooting position is first we study the position. Does this sound familiar to you guys? Then we practice the position without the firearm. They changed it a little bit Then we practice the position with an unloaded firearm. They make that clarifier. Then they align the pistol to the target, and then dry fire, and then of course you test your position with live fire. And then they say, but only under the guidance and supervision of an NRA certified instructor. Lesson 7, pistol shooting errors. This is new. They actually talk about pistol shooting errors, what causes the main errors. And they show examples in these animatics and all those things that cause those common errors. Then they go over additional errors that they may incur, which is all new stuff. We never really did that in an organization. Now, as coaches and instructors, yeah, on the line when we're diagnosing deficiencies, yeah, we're going through all that stuff. But they actually have a complete lesson that shows them these errors and the effects of those errors. Pretty cool stuff. Zeroing your pistol, it explains how to zero, and it has a really cool animatic showing the, we move the rear sight in the direction we want the shot group to move. And it shows a couple shots, and they're down here, and it says, how would you move the sights? And you click on it and you move them. And it says correct, or it says, wrong. Perhaps we need to review, and it sends them back a couple frames, and they have to look at it again. So there's lots of little interactive things that happen in the e-learning that make it very effective. Scoring a target, it goes through the scoring, and actually they show a couple sample targets, and they say score the target. And you have to add them up and correct, give it the score, and it says if you're right or not. So it really checks to make sure they know what they're doing with that. Then lesson 8 are pistol stoppages. Type of stoppages, and then it goes into clearing pistol stoppages, and it shows some demonstrations with some live instructors. Pistol cleaning and maintenance. So they set it up, they show how to clean a pistol, and talk about some of the different components you would need. Lubrication, inspection and maintenance, safe pistol storage, selecting pistols and ammunition. Talks about selecting a pistol, very much the same thing we talk about in the class now, what do you want it for, and does it fit your hand, so on and so forth. But then it gets into selecting ammunition, and it talks a little bit more about certain ammunition is good for this and certain ammunition is good for that, which is a little more than what maybe we would teach, at least by the book. I know most of us generally would continue that conversation on after we covered the bare minimum of our syllabus. Maintaining your skills. Range practice, some protocol on ranges, how to find a range, additional opportunities, so competition. Talk to an NRA certified instructor about personal protection inside the home, personal protection outside, more opportunities within NRA training. And then it does the NRA module where it talks about what the NRA does and the history of the NRA and how to sign up for the National Rifle Association. That is what the e-learning is comprised of. Covers a lot of material. Much of it the same stuff we already covered, in the, we'll call it the old version. We all understand what I mean by that, the current version, I guess. But it does have more. Think of the e-learning as part of your training team. Part of the attitude of folks that I have talked to is, well, let's take a step into the late 20th century and ask grandson to bring the computer over and take the course online. That's just kind of a harsh thing to say, but it's reality. That being said, we as instructors have so much flexibility. One of the things we're going to do at Logan's Ferry is maybe once every 3 months, perhaps, we're all going to bring our laptops up and we're going to have them set up. And those people that don't have access or don't want to go to the library and use the computer there, they can come up and Jack and I and Joel will sit around, drink coffee and BS all day while everyone's doing the online portion. And that's just something we're going to offer to our, the people that come to the club. That might be something to consider. I would guess within your instructor cadre, it wouldn't be hard to come up with a few laptops and make that available. The amount of millennials that are going to now take this class, we're going to open this course up to so many people, a whole generation of folks that frankly are voting now, or starting to, that need to get exposure to this. When they are done, when they complete the entire e-learning and they take a test, there is a test at the end, they have to sit there and take a test, they get sent a PDF of the completion certificate for Phase 1. So they get a Phase 1 completion certificate. Now, when they complete the Phase 1, well, now they need to come do Phase 2. Phase 2, how many of you guys have lesson plans with you? All right, we got quite a few. Good, good. We're going to go through the the actual introduction of the book. Course information. Phase 2, we're on page 1. Phase 2 of the NRA pistol shooting course reinforces and applies the skills students have already learned in the e-learning. So again, we're going to work with that knowledge and put it into a practical context. Instructors are responsible for effectively reviewing safety rules and procedures while also coaching. Coaching, that's a good word. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And assisting students as they handle pistols for the first time in a classroom and/or range environment. The mindset is moving towards more of a coaching kind of aspect. Now, we all do this when we're on the range. You know, we'll teach the classroom stuff, then we get on the range and we're looking on this side and we're looking on that side and we're saying, adjust this and do that. We're coaching at that point in time. And considering that the phase 2 is all practical, it's hands-on, and they're actually using firearms, touching them from the get-go, you can see where the coaching aspect is very important. And of course it says this is our Bible. We need to adhere to it to maintain the standard of training. You guys are all familiar with that. Now let's go over to page 2, objectives. In this course, students must complete the exercises provided and meet the shooting qualification in order to achieve a certificate. They got to shoot the qual and pass it. Phase 2 students must demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and attitude necessary for the safe and proficient use of a pistol and pass the qualification shooting standard at level 1, which is red. And that's the minimum to earn a completion certificate. There are actually 4 levels of qualification that we can run our students through. Level red is our minimum requirement. So if they shoot level red, then we can give them their certificate. They've met the minimum requirement to pass the course. The other qualifications are, in addition, giving us an opportunity to train more with these individuals, and we'll cover that when we get there. At the bottom of that page, instructors have the freedom to invite students back for further mentorship and qualify each additional level, as well as participate in the Winchester NRA Marksmanship Qualification Program. That's an excellent program to get our students into, and rather than just saying, hey, there's this Winchester NRA qual, go ahead and shoot it, we can actually bring them back as an NRA certified instructor and go through those quals. Now let's go to materials. This is something new. Performance requirement checklist. Remember that checklist back in the appendix of our current lesson plan that's optional? It's no longer optional. We need to print 2 copies of the checklist, performance requirement checklist, and as we advance through it, instructor needs to sign off on it and the student needs to sign off on it. At the end of the class, when we hand them their certificate, when they qual, we give them a copy, we keep a copy on file. This is part of the measurability and accountability of the course, which is a little extra paperwork, and I know that's a bit of a pain in the butt. I have used the performance qualification checklist in the past, and it does require more work for us as instructors. But having that really covers our butt down the road if ever we need that information to show proof of training. So it's part of, it's a liability to cover your butt thing, but also it's the law of the land now. We have to do it, it's required. So you'll need to print 2 copies per student. Fill them both out, have the students sign off on them as well as you go through each objective, and give them a copy at the end with their certificate. We still need to bring a single action, a double action revolver, and a semi-automatic. Just because we're not doing the quote classroom teaching anymore doesn't mean that we're not going to deal with the different action types. And we're going to do the load, unload, cock, decock. We're going to do that same practical exercise that we do now. Live ammunition, a minimum of 100 rounds. We shoot more in this class. We definitely shoot more. If we just do it bare minimum, they're shooting more than they did before. So they're getting about 8 hours of online classroom time, plus 6+ hours of live fire with more ammunition, throwing lead down range. I mean, it's a better program. Absolutely a better program. Time requirements. This is actually one of the questions on the test when I train a new instructor. How long is phase 2 of the NRA basic pistol course? 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, 50 hours? Yeah, the course is based upon objectives. That's how long the course is. How many hours? It's based upon objectives. So if it takes you 9 hours to meet those objectives, cool. If it takes 3 days, cool. If you can get it done in 6, great. But again, you know, until the objectives are met, you're not done with the class. Student to instructor ratio, just the same as it is now. You know, 1-on-1 is preferred, but 2-to-1 is our minimum on the firing line. Let's go over to the next page. This is something new. Some of you guys may not know this. Do you remember the disabled shooting program the NRA had? There's now a program called the adaptive shooting program. It's not called disabled anymore. It's adaptive. So Dan, you have full motion of all of your limbs and your body, but you get in a car wreck, break your leg, we're going to need to adapt your shooting style so that you can continue to shoot. So it covers everything from paraplegics to amputees to someone that broke their arm and it's in a cast. If you have a student that you're unsure about how to incorporate them in the class, call them. They help you through it. They give you tips, ideas. They had an individual who was deaf in New Hampshire or somewhere that wanted to take basic pistol, and they helped organize someone to do sign for them. Adaptive is infrastructure that's in place to help us in those situations. Terminology, again, let's avoid the W word. Whenever we're using firearms, just like now, we need to be aware of our muzzle discipline. If we pick up a firearm, we need to visually and physically inspect the firearm, the chamber and the magazine area, make sure no ammunition is present, and then have a separate verification of that. That's NRA policy. One important note, and they put it in here, and this is not in the old manual. Of course, we discussed earlier, part of progress was we're allowed to use simulated training devices in classes now, but I'm sure we've all witnessed instructors get kind of lax with a SIRT pistol with the muzzle discipline. They get lax with a blue gun. It's NRA policy, if you flag someone with a blue gun or a SIRT pistol and it gets back to the NRA and they have to investigate it, they're going to treat it just like you flagged them with a real firearm. We need to maintain muzzle discipline even with simulated devices. No live ammunition in the classroom. This is the same type of policy. We can actually do this whole portion on the range. So the no ammunition in the classroom means when we're doing any of the demonstrations, we can't have any ammunition there. Obviously, when we're doing live fire, we're going to have ammunition. But everything up to that, we need to make sure there's no ammunition. Of course, it talks about release waiver, indemnification, hold harmless. I'm sure you guys all have some type of waiver that you use just to kind of cover your butt, CYA kind of thing. Definitely recommended. Now, a couple new things with this format of the lesson plan. We're all used to the 3-column format. On the left side, it's the bullet points we need to hit. The middle is the meat and potatoes, maybe how to go about hitting those points. And on the far side were our PowerPoint slides. Well, we have no PowerPoint anymore. We don't need one. That being said, I had asked this question. If you guys want to have the PowerPoint, there are certainly in the exercises places where we could use it. If you want to use your current PowerPoint and just use certain slides, you're welcome to. There's nothing that says you can't. To my knowledge, they're not going to supply a PowerPoint with Phase 2. Again, it's supposed to be geared towards practical, hands-on, not so much information dissemination from a lecturing standpoint. Now, some of the different changes. The yellow triangle containing an exclamation point at the introduction to each exercise. This denotes important safety and policy information. So if you see the yellow exclamation point, it's something to pay attention to. These lesson plans have a 2-column format, unlike the 3. The left column identifies activities or content, what the student must learn, and the right column contains instructional notes on how the instructor should teach those points. The green box with a question mark in it, those are prompts. You remember in the old lessons that say, ask the students why Americans own firearms. Well, it would just say, and it would be in italics. This is kind of the same thing, but there's a green prompt there. So the prompt is generally a question that you're supposed to ask the students to encourage some type of TPI, some kind of question and answer. The bullseye target indicates to the instructor that a practical exercise needs to occur. So when you see a bullseye, that means right there we need to have the student do something. Just like now, by me demonstrating something, that doesn't satisfy the student actually doing it themselves. So when we see that bullseye, that means the student's going to have to get their hands on metal or polymer and actually do something, some type of exercise. Now the blue circle containing the teacher icon, this indicates the instructor will need to demonstrate. So that would mean there's a demonstration that you would need to perform at that point in time in the lesson plan. And of course, during the demonstration, we need to always show the correct way to do things. So I'm sure someone in here is guilty of demonstrating the modified Compton. Let's not do that kind of stuff. You know, showing the incorrect way to present a firearm. Always show the correct way. And we'll try and get those students, by seeing it correctly over and over, to equate what they need to do to adjust what they're doing to do it properly. That way they self-diagnose and self-correct. Learning is definitely taking place at that time. Let's go to Appendix E, the Performance Requirement Checklist. If you guys want to move ahead to Appendix E. We photocopy these. We photocopy 2 sets per student. So some of the things we're signing off on. Of course, we've got contact information, all that kind of stuff. We have what level certification is earned, or from qualification. So we check off if they earn red. Well, they have to earn red if they're gonna complete the course. Now, if they don't, and we have to bring them back next Tuesday, and they earn it then we check off on that. And you'll notice there's a date. So we mark off what date they completed that. And then they can continue to come back, and we check off level white, level blue, level instructor. There's 4 different levels they can qualify. And then the checklist during the regular, the proper course. Independent handling exercise, for instance. Student kept gun unloaded until ready to use. Yep, all right, fine. Mark off on it. There's a note section. You can put a note in there. Yes, Kelly? To my knowledge, we just have to copy them. I can say, as you know, with Refuse to be a Victim, we're just required to do some photocopies before every class. So we're not going to receive any packets to where we will be supplied this. We just will have to, I got 10 people, I'm going to have 20 copies of this to fill out. So it's just a little extra. And we don't have to buy a student packet. So rather than pay $9 plus shipping for a packet, I now have to pay 80 cents for some photocopies. All right, I'm okay with that. Qualification. Each qualification level does not need to be conducted in a single session. Instructors have the freedom to invite students for further mentorship and qualifying for each additional level, as well as participate in the NRA Winchester Marksmanship Qual. The NRA wants us to continually train with people. Bring them back, bring them back, bring them back. If your students return, you have the choice of printing new certificates to endorse each level, or have them bring their original certificate back for your endorsement. Students must qualify level 1, which is the red, to earn the basic pistol completion certificate for phase 2. So until then, we sit on their certificate. So they don't get it. They come back, we do a requal, they get red, okay, we can sign off and give it to them. These are what the targets look like. You don't have to go get color copies of these. You can just do black and white copies. They're the same thing. They're 4-inch circles. So they need to get basically 20 rounds in all those circles, 5 shots each circle. The different qualifications are different distances. So level 1, they need to get 5 shots in each circle. And again, the circles are 4 inches at 10 feet. And yeah, it's a smaller group than maybe we're accustomed to, but it's closer. So I would say, stressing the slow fire, take your time, go through the checklist of fundamentals before you take the shot. They should be able to do it. The white qualification, same at 15 feet. So we're moving back 5 feet. The blue is 20 feet. So we just keep moving them back. Now it's entirely possible you could go through all the quals in one day with your regular class, but we've all done enough classes. The disparity of talent in a basic pistol course is sometimes quite vast. So depending on your client base, you might be able to get through it in one day. You may need to schedule another time or have them come back one-on-one. Dan calls me up and says, I've been practicing, I'm ready. Can I meet you up at the club? Sure, yeah, come on up. They do it, sign off on it. Good job, man, awesome, great. The last qual, our students are allowed to shoot the qual for instructor. Now those of you that didn't take basic pistol as a student, when you became an instructor, remember you had to shoot that pre-qual, or you should have. You should have shot the pre-qual. This is the same thing. So that target is available and people can shoot that. They can keep it on file, and if ever they come to me down the road and want to become an instructor and supply me with that, well then great. They don't have to shoot the pre-qual. Mainly what they do it for is really to kind of give some people something to work up to, because whether or not everyone in here is a crack shot, every person taking your class, just because you're an NRA certified instructor, expects you to be a crack shot. So if they can shoot the same quality instructors do, then that's a challenge. We can still have them qual red, while over here we're working on blue and we're working on white, provided you can shoot at different distances and make that safe. But certainly if you have target carriers or somewhere, you can move targets back and forth, absolutely. So you could really manage that entire class, and maybe you get 5 people that qualify instructor, and then you got the rest that did red and maybe 1 that's got to come back. Yeah, definitely, there's ways to manage that, provided you can do it safely, absolutely. We want to do the Winchester NRA Marksmanship Qualification Program on top of this. So you could, at the end of the class, if you keep track of this, you could get them their Pro Marksman qualification at the end of the class. Hand them a patch. Patches are cheap. Put a couple patches in your kit, hand them out as people qualify, and then say, why don't you come back and let's see if we can get you to be marksman and then expert and so on and so forth. So allowing more opportunity for you to bring people back. Bring them back and keep training them with them. So in our outline, exercise 1, these aren't called lessons, they're called exercises. Exercise 1 takes place in, where does exercise 1 take place? Who's got eyes on it? Classroom and or the range. We have maximum flexibility in this new program. If you want to teach some of this stuff and do dry fire in your classroom environment, great, not a problem. You know, a lot of people in urban environments, they're paying 20 bucks an hour, or I'm sorry, 20 bucks per quarter hour per stall at some indoor range. It's not cost effective to have someone on the line the entire time while you're doing this. So if that's the case, by all means, use a classroom environment, do everything right up to where it's time to press trigger on live ammo, and then take them into the range. Reading this, I think I would prefer to do everything on the range. I have that ability. Some people don't. And that way we're in the right context, we're in the right environment, getting people ready so when it's time to press trigger, they're already kind of acclimated to the area, but we have that flexibility. This is the first gun handling experience for many of our shooters. So even if we're on our square range, we still no ammo there. You know, even though it's not technically the classroom, we need to treat it like it is with our no ammo in the classroom policy. By the book, about 60 minutes for this lesson. As we know, that's a minimum time. It might take longer than that, but if we get it done in 45, we're cheating. We're not doing something right. So exercise 1, our learning objectives are review the 3 NRA rules for safe gun handling. State the range rules and identify range commands. So it's kind of a little bit of a range safety briefing. Exercise 2 are the fundamentals. Again, classroom or the range. We determine your eye dominance, which they should already know and have an idea how to do that because it's covered pretty well in the e-learning. We assume the proper two-handed grip, and we demonstrate the 5 fundamentals of pistol shooting: aiming, breath control, hold control, trigger control, and follow through. So we do go through that. It's not, hey, you saw it on the internet, now come and shoot. It's not like that at all. We're still covering all this stuff in a practical setting. In the top paragraph, the introduction. In this exercise, students will review and practice the fundamentals of shooting using a pistol under your supervision. Students should demonstrate proficiency of these skills before continuing to the next exercise, which is loading, cocking, decocking, and unloading. So objective-based, just like the program is now. We wouldn't just hand them a gun and say shoot until they have a solid knowledge of how the firearm works, they understand the fundamentals, they understand how to properly grip the firearm, they understand how to present the firearm. So we get into the eye dominance, the grip, we have a grip practical exercise, and then we go through the 5 fundamentals. And it also gives us a resource of lesson number 5 in our manual. So if you want to say, you guys already have notes on that now, when you talk about something, turn to page 17 in your manual. We can still do that. You know, we can still certainly use that training aid if we want to. I would recommend it, actually. Again, that book is what they take home. Remember our icons. If we go down here, section A, determine your eye dominance. There's that green question mark. Ask students why it's important to know which eye is dominant. So can you guys tell me why it's important to know what your dominant eye is? Okay, you don't have to answer, but we're prompting a conversation. And by doing that, we're utilizing TPI to the extreme, because not only are we getting people interacting in our course, but now we're sitting here thinking, Yeah, that guy paid attention to the e-learning. Oh, that guy must have been asleep when he did that lesson. We're kind of gauging where our students are at. These questions are very important. And you'll see it continues on throughout that lesson doing that same type of structure. We prompt a question generally, we discuss it, we can use that to gauge on their understanding of the concepts. At that point in time, if we get that person in the back that looks like, don't ask me a question, don't ask me a question. You know, we've all seen that person. Maybe we review a little bit. You know, there's nothing wrong with reviewing anything you think you need to. Just because the e-learning talked about it, and that's a separate thing to us, doesn't mean we can't still talk about it. Exercise 3, loading, cocking, decocking, unloading, and pistol maintenance. So this takes place in the classroom or the range. So load, cock, decock, and unload a single action revolver. Load, cock, decock, and unload a double action revolver. Load, cock, decock, and unload a semi-automatic. Same thing we're doing now. In this exercise, I'm in the introduction at the top, students will demonstrate proficiency loading, cocking, decocking, and unloading their pistol under your supervision. Although this exercise splits these skills up by pistol type, students should be assessed based on available pistol types, and their advancement to the next exercise is based on your evaluation. So we need to give them a taste of each action type, make sure they can do it, but if they've got a semi-automatic and they can't load, cock, decock, and we know they're going to shoot that, it might behoove us to make sure they're squared away on their gun. If that makes any sense? Again, all this is saying is you guys are smart enough. If you need to take a little more time and invest a little more time with a student, by all means do it. And then we go through to review how to safely clean a pistol. Then exercise 4. This takes place on the range. Exercise 4 are the shooting positions and the qualification. So we demonstrate the 5 learning steps to shoot from a bench rest position, and then we fire from a bench rest. We demonstrate the 5 learning steps to shoot from an isosceles, and we fire the isosceles, and then after that we go into the shooting qual. This takes place in the range. This is the live fire portion. In this final exercise before the shooting qualification, so the exercise really isn't, the qualification is the next step after the exercise. Students will practice shooting from various positions in relationship to the specified target at range. Students must demonstrate proficiency of these skills to receive certification. It's all objective based. So if they can't shoot a group from a bench, there's no point in us standing them up and having them shoot isosceles. And there's no point in having them try and shoot the qual if they can't get a group at the bench rest. So we need to work through this with the objectives in mind. Now, of course, we need firearms, we need live ammunition, standard white sheet of paper with 1-inch diameter black dot in the middle. So they're saying, you know, paper plates, blank paper, whatever. You know, we're not worried about a bullseye or scoring initially. We just want to establish grouping. And of course, we need our basics of pistol shooting performance requirement checklist for each student. Let's take a look real quickly at Appendix A, the one-handed standing shooting position. This is optional, but I recommend running them through it too. There is definitely a benefit for someone that wants to shoot competitively to shoot this way, and there's absolutely a benefit for someone that wants to shoot defensively to be able to shoot this way. So the positives of the one-handed exercise work no matter what direction they go after they take your course. But it's optional. You don't have to do the one-handed, it's recommended. So we could shoot them through that at the end. Actually, by the way it reads, they're suggesting doing that after the qualification. However you want to manage that, it doesn't matter, so long as we meet the objectives that we're supposed to meet. All right, so we go through the bench rest position. We're going to set up at the bench rest just like we do now. This single 5-shot exercise at 15 feet. And this course of fire is exactly the same as we're doing now. We practice we study the position, we practice the position without the pistol, we practice it with an unloaded pistol, we align the position to the target, we do our natural aiming area check, and then we dry fire. And we go through those fundamentals in a dry fire context, and then when we're ready and we think there's going to be success, we load them up, have them shoot live ammunition. So when we shoot live, we're shooting the 5 single shot exercise 2 times, just like we do now, and then we do a 5-shot exercise until the student can achieve 4-inch groups. So, you know, how long is a piece of string? I don't know. We just need to shoot until they're able to do that. Then we continue firing once they establish groups. Use the level 1 target, and they need to shoot until they shoot 3 5-shot groups. So just so we don't have to make someone do a reshoot while everyone watches them, I would always recommend doing 4 or 5 targets or 4 or 5 courses of fire with this. And the more, shooting extra rounds is never a bad thing. Then we do the isosceles position, same thing we've always been doing. And we go through the isosceles. Point 7 there, it says have students, this is after we've gone through the individual shot exercise and we've established group. Have students load 5 cartridges and fire at a blank target at their own pace to achieve a shot group. Repeat the 5-shot exercise until your student is able to shoot at least 3 5-shot groups within a 4-inch diameter circle in the middle of the target. So, we're going to do the same format that we've been doing. Once that's achieved, rather than say good night like we do now, then we qual them. What should instructors charge for their course? Instructors should review the Phase 2 lesson plan and create their budgets accordingly, utilizing Appendix H, the budget worksheet of your trainer manual, just like we do now. I bet we've got close to 50 people in here. I bet there's close to 50 different prices you guys charge for the class right now. I know some folks that charge top dollar, and I know other folks that do it for damn near free. And that's your right to do it however you want to. There is no set fee structure. And being that the online portion is a pre-qual that's not really part of what we are doing, don't factor it. Don't undervalue yourself. It costs you whatever it costs to do the class, charge it. And there is no better basic course. And we all know this, we've seen it happen. Someone that's never touched a gun before, by the end of the day, man, they're shooting groups, they're comfortable, they're safe. It's a fantastic course. It's now a premium fantastic course. And that's how we got to look at it. In addition to what they learn online, they get 8 hours of instruction, online instruction. They get to work with a certified NRA pistol instructor. They get to cover all of the stuff they learned online in a practical environment, and they get to shoot more, and they get to score a qualification and come out of there with a qual. So how will the students sign up for a course, was the question I asked. Students will still sign up for your course, just like they always have. But they will be required to have a PIN number to register. So they receive this PIN number by taking the e-learning. So say you just say, hey, we're doing a class on the 15th. I'll send you an email with the link. They go to the link, it says, you can sign up for Phase 2 with Aaron after completing the e-learning. So they'll get sent over the e-learning. They will create a PIN when they register for the online portion. So they get the PIN as soon as they register. So if Joe Bob wants to sign up for your class that's happening next week, and he wants to get on the roster because you only have 8 slots, well, as soon as he signs up for the e-learning, he gets his PIN. Then he can come over and sign up for your class. Just he has to complete the e-learning before your class starts. And you guys will know that because it'll pop up on their roster. After completion of the e-learning, they will register for your instructor-led portion using their PIN. Their contact information and test scores will appear on your course report when they pop up. They'll be on the register. Once the instructor completes the instructor-led portion and the student passes the course, the instructor prints the certificate from NRA Instructor and gives them a certificate. Or if you want to take a picture of it and email it to them or scan it, whatever you want to do, but it does require your signature on it. So there has to be some hard copy somewhere to be able to put a signature on it. Will the instructor need to supply a packet? No. NRA will supply a book as PDF and then send hard copy materials. Instructor needs to print the certificate, the Phase 2 certificate, and sign it. Instructors can scan the certificate and email it to the students if preferred. Instructors are also required to print 2 copies of the performance checklist. We've talked about that in great depth so far. How does the instructor know when a student has completed Phase 1? The PIN and their certificate. When they register using the PIN, their contact information and test scores are transferred to the instructor report. Will the instructor submit a course report? Yes, submit the report to print certificates. Certs are pre-populated from the info on the report. Name, date, instructor ID, and the name of the student. Print and initial the qualification level and sign it. Provide the student certificate and copies of the performance checklist with the instructor and student signatures on it. So the checklist, again, everybody needs to sign it. So there's no more printing something out and then lining it through the printer and putting it in backwards and screwing up a certificate. None of that will happen anymore. So if folks don't pass the qual, manage it. Bring them back on another day. Be creative. Bring them back. Continue that relationship. If you're good at your job, they'll keep coming back, then they'll take more classes and do more training and become their instructor, become their trainer. And they'll keep coming back to you. I want to thank Michelle Koval again for making this happen. I want to thank Millville, and I want to thank you guys for coming out here and spending some time with me.